Well, hello class, and I hope you are enjoying your snow day. And I want to give you the lecture notes in this live lecture discussion, so to speak, in organizational structures and design. And in this first video, I am going to try to get through the first two learning outcomes, and that is, what is organizing as a management function? We want to be able to answer that question. And the second one is, what are the traditional organizational structures? We should be able to identify that as well. So I'm going to kind of bring you through the lecture into how these all apply to the learning objectives of the chapter. Essentially, these first two functions and learning objectives, rather, are going to be talking about how we define organizing as a management function. And we want to be able to tell the difference between formal and informal structures. So, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of informal structures and organizations? And explain the differences between functional, divisional, and matrix structures. So what I'm going to do in these first two objectives, essentially, and as they correlate to your learning outcomes, is to try to figure out, number one, what is organizing as a management function. So let's take a look at that. If you look at figure 11-1 in your book, you will notice that it kind of talks about what is an organizational structure. I believe it's page 271 in your book if you're looking at the same thing that I am. And what figure 11-1 goes into is, number one, kind of explaining what organizing is. Organizing is the process of arranging people and other resources to work together to accomplish a goal. It involves dividing up the work to be done, what we normally refer to as division of labor, and coordinating results to achieve a common purpose. So look back again at figure 11-1, and it depicts the relationship between organizing and the other management functions, which we've already talked about. How all the other management functions, remember I did that on the board the last lecture, all the other management functions like planning, leading, controlling, they integrate with organizing. And how do we divide up the work? How do we arrange for our resources? And then how do we coordinate activities? So, given that we have a clear mission, core values are clear, objectives are clear, and strategy is clear, organizing begins the process of implementation by clarifying all the different types of jobs and their working relationships. So, what is organizational structure? Organizational structure is the system of tasks, workflows, reporting relationships, and communication channels that link together the work of diverse individuals and their groups. So, any structure is going to allocate task assignments through what we refer to as a division of labor. And it provides for the coordination of performance results that are going to be sufficient enough to reach our strategic goals and our objectives. So, what does that say about structure? It says that structure should be addressed in a contingency fashion. Structure should be tailored to fit the situation and the environment and not the other way around. If we don't structure our internal organization to meet the needs of the external environment, which are our vendors, our customers, our competitors, then we are not going to be competitive. Eventually we'll go out of business. So let's talk about formal structures first. Look at near the water. Let's take an organizational chart, for example. We talked about structure, now we'll talk about the chart. An organizational chart is a diagram describing reporting relationships and the formal arrangement of work positions within our organization. Basically, it's legitimate management protocol. Who reports to who and who does what. What does an organizational chart do? It provides a representation of the organization's formal structure. That is, what is the structure of the organization in its official state? So, then, what does an organizational chart reveal? It reveals the division of work, that is, the positions and titles show what work responsibilities go to whom. It shows the supervisory relationships. The lines show, the little matrix lines on the chart. They show who reports to whom, and it also talks to the communication channels. Those are the lines that show the formal communication channels. Lower level supervisors report to middle level supervisors, report to upper level supervisors, VPs, etc., all the way to the CEO. Every chart should have some major subunits. Those are positions reporting to a common manager. And then you have the different levels of management. There are vertical layers of management that are shown. Vertical layers meaning that up and down, supervisors, middle managers, associate vice presidents, CEOs, that type of thing. Now, we also have the informal structure. The informal structure is a shadow organization. That means it's not legitimate, but it has impact. And it's made up of the unofficial but often critical working relationships between organizational members. A tool that we all know, known as the social network. When we analyze that, that's one way of identifying informal structures and their embedded social relationships. So the analysis typically asks people to identify others whom they turn to for help the most, those with whom they communicate with regularly, and individuals who energize and de-energize them. You can have people that affect the social media in a very positive or negative way, and that affects the company. But the informal grapevine, if you will, the informal structure does have some positive advantages. It allows people to make contact with others who can help them get things done. Like LinkedIn, if you want to change your job or you want to keep up with what's going on in the industry, you get onto LinkedIn. It also stimulates informal learning as people work and interact together through the workday. And it also provides emotional support and friendship between people when they can't physically be together. But what are some of the disadvantages of the informal structure? Well, as we all know, you can listen to rumors that may or may not be true. You can carry inaccurate information, and that could be spread as gospel truth, which God knows can cause so many problems. and you can divert work efforts for important job objectives. In other words, people want you to take their side on how to get things done, but they have no legitimate authority to do so. And finally, it could result in feelings of alienation by outsiders, persons who are left out of the informal groups. You know, everyone wants to belong in one way or another. So, let's talk about the next thing. And the next thing that we want to learn about is going to be the traditional organizational structures. And that's what I want to talk about in today's, the second takeaway in the learning objectives. A traditional principle of organizing is that performance gains are possible when people are allowed to specialize and become experts in specific jobs or tasks. This principle leads to what we call departmentalization. Big word. The process of grouping together people and jobs into work units. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the functional structures. Functional structures exist when people who have similar skills and performing similar tasks are grouped together into those formal work units that we just talked about. For example, if you look at figure 11-2 on page 273 of your text, it illustrates a functional structure for a business, firm, a branch bank, and a community hospital. Now, the members of each function work within their areas of expertise. The thing to know is that functional structures are not limited to businesses. Functional structures work well for small organizations that produce only a few products or services, but there are advantages of functional structures. Here are the advantages. Number one, economies of scale with efficient use of resources. They don't have to go through so much red tape to get their resources for what they need to do because they're small. The second thing is task assignments are consistent with expertise and training. With small organizations, you can become much more selective in who you pick to do what jobs, and they are essentially experts in their field. High quality technical problem solving. People can really not spend a lot of time and solve technical issues by working in groups based on their expertise of solving problems. And then finally, groups are small enough so you can give them in-depth training and skill development within their functions. So these are things that are really important. But there are also disadvantages of functional structures. And some of the potential disadvantages are sometimes many people do so many things that there are difficulties in pinpointing responsibilities for cost containment, product or service quality, and innovation. Functional chimneys problems. Now, a chimneys problem is interesting. It's called a functional silos problem, for lack of a better word. And what happens is that those types of things, that chimney problem results in the lack of communication, coordination, and problem solving across functions. So, often, the sense of purpose gets lost to self-centered and narrow viewpoints. People think their way is the only way to do things, and they try to manipulate and convince people otherwise that their opinion doesn't count and only theirs counts. So, also, when you're small enough, there's a lot of micromanaging and there's too many hands in the soup. So too many decisions are referred upwardly to the hierarchy. And they have to ultimately make a decision where they might not even be involved in the problem. That just slows down the solution process. The next thing to look at is divisional structures. Divisional structures group together people who work on the same product or process, and they serve similar customers, or they're located in the same area or geographical region. Divisional structures are common in really complex organizations with a lot of diverse operations, and maybe they're global, and that they extend across many products, territories, customers, and work processes. Sodexo is such a company. It's global. It has many territories, many customers, and many products across the way. Refer to figure 11.3 on page 274 of your text, and that provides examples of divisional structures that are based on product, geography, customer, and process. Product structures group together people and jobs that are focused on a single product or service. They clearly identify costs, profits, problems, and successes in a market area with a central point of accountability. Now those are product structures, and then we have geographical structures. Geographical structures are sometimes called area structures. And what they do is they group together jobs and activities being performed in the same location or geographical region. They are typically used when there is a need to differentiate products or services in various locations. Then finally you have customer structures, and they group together jobs and activities that are serving the same customers or clients. The major appeal is the ability to best serve the special needs of the different customer groups. They are typically found in the consumer products industry. Now, if you follow the story on page 276, describing how Patricia Carter, K-A-R-T-E-R, the CEO of Dancing Bear Baking, maintains her core values even though it caused her company to lose a large sale to Williams-Sonoma. And just take a look at that story. It talks a lot about process structures. And a work process is a group of tasks that collectively create something of a value to the customer. Process structures essentially group together jobs and activities that are part of the same process. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages of divisional structures. Some of the advantages are they're more flexible, they improve coordination, they clear up points of responsibilities, they go into expertise that focuses on certain specific customers, products, and regions, and they have a greater ease in changing size by adding or deleting divisions, and this could be very global. Some of the disadvantages are they have a lot of duplication of resources and efforts across divisions. So like a big company like Procter & Gamble, you may not know that so many thousands of products, they may not know when they're making and losing money. Even Sodexo. Competition and poor coordination across divisions. That can cause a lot of problems. And their emphasis is more on divisional goals where they don't see that each division is part of the major organizational goals or the overall strategic plan. Then you got a matrix structure. A matrix structure combines the functional and divisional structures in an attempt to gain the advantages and minimize the disadvantages of each. If you look at 11.4, figure 11.4 on page 277 of the text, it illustrates a matrix structure in a small multi-project business firm. Workers in this structure simultaneously belong to at least two groups: a functional group and a product program or project team. That's a matrix. You have your own boss that might be like the vice president of marketing, but you have a matrix captain that might have a special project that they are working on, and you're on that team. So you report to two bosses, one with the function and the other with the team. So the matrix organization usually is used in manufacturing and service industries, professional fields, and even the nonprofit sector. So you can go ahead and read some of the advantages and disadvantages of matrix organizations. So when you look at these two learning outcome objectives in this particular video, I want you to consider your own team that you're going to be working on when you're doing Sodexo. What are some of the challenges that you're going to encounter when looking at a multinational corporation and how they're going to increase their market share? Let's see if they have matrix organizations, matrix structures, and see how they're broken down. And see how that can become a challenge when you have so many diversified products in so many areas, how it affects the company culturally and economically. Well, that's it for this video, and please look at this video in lieu of today's class, and remember the Dunkin' Donuts work study that you are doing, case study rather, that you are doing in your own projects right now within your teams. Okay? So be safe in the snow.